Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast, the news review right here on Citizen TV with me, Fred Indemuli. I'm still in studio with Dr. Ojiambo Oundo, MP Funyula constituency, Ndindi Nyoro, MP Kiharu, and Bwana Murigi Kamande, lawyer and social political commentator. Incidentally, Bwana Nyoro, something is happening in your constituency this week. Yeah. Of course, the commemoration of the life of Kenneth Matiba, your predecessor, one of the earlier MPs of that same constituency. What's happening today? I do understand there's a church service in Nairobi, and then there will be another one in Muranga. Yeah, we have a church service at All Saints Cathedral from around 10:30. Then tomorrow we have a big mass and service at General Ihura Stadium in Muranga town. I was there yesterday. We are really prepared to host as many people as possible. The field can accommodate over 10,000 people seated. And I welcome all Kenyans to come so that we pay our last respects to Honorable Matiba. But I have to say that Matiba is an inspiration to so many people, including myself. And I don't actually think I can ever fit in his shoes as the current member of parliament for Kiharu. And I say so because in this current generation, it is very, hardly will you get a person who can give their all for the sake of others. Honorable Matiba gave all he had, including his health, for the liberation of this country. And I call upon all the young people, myself included, that we take the cue. We now confront the challenges that are bedeviling this country, the same way Matiba took head-on the challenges of yesteryears. And the current problem we have currently is tribalism and corruption. I call upon the Kenyan people, especially the young people, that we have to confront this with all the energy that we have. Because after all is said and done, Fred, no one is remembered by the money they had. No one is remembered by how much they were making. You are remembered by the mark you left. We are remembering Matiba, not because of the business empire that he created, but because of the mark he created and the mark he has left to the Kenyan progress, especially in terms of democracy. Yes, the first of two funeral services for the late Kenneth Matiba, the second liberation hero, takes place this morning at the All Saints Cathedral from 10:30 a.m. And the second one will be at Ihura Stadium in Muranga tomorrow. Yeah, from around 10. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. Let's go back now to our discussions, and we're looking at, I think it was on the Daily Nation, the Equalization Fund. Still talking about the Devolution Conference, and I've said, I told you earlier, quite some coverage. The Daily Nation even today is a bit heavy, and I'm sure it's because of the Devolution Conference, because of the coverage, going to page 3, 4, 5. Now, on page 3 of the Daily Nation, MCA's Push Forward Fund comes up at event, and that was also on Citizen TV as well. The kind of push and pull between senators and governors. Some don't like it, some are in support. Well, the controversial 2018 County Ward Development Equalization Bill could find its way into the agenda of the Devolution Conference. The bill currently in the Senate proposes the creation of 21.8 billion shilling fund to be distributed directly to the wards for their own development. Now, MCAs, just like members of the National Assembly and the Senate, are supposed to mainly focus on the legislative agenda. The development agenda is supposed to be left to the county government. Is it time to change how we run the counties? Is it because governors have failed and now we're thinking MCAs will do better at the county level?
The problem we have in this country is the push for relevance. The MCAs want to have a hand in what's happening. And probably it's also the issue of corruption, where there's normally this glitch that how can I be watching others eating while I'm just a mere spectator? Everybody thinks that once they have the funds, they can manipulate the funds and at least have something small in your pocket. But the reality is that there's a very clear distinction, and that distinction is made very clear and mainstreamed in our politics and the law. Legislation and execution should be separated, clean and square. Yes. The MCAs, the MPs, the senators should concentrate on legislation, oversight and representation. Yes. You cannot oversight yourself. You cannot hold accountable to the people who manage the funds if you are already part and parcel in the management of the funds. So the MCAs should sincerely just abandon that idea. It's unconstitutional. It can never see the light of the day. Any court of law in this country will quash this particular bill because it is unconstitutional.
That's a member of the National Assembly who incidentally has CDF as well. And the CDF is the same argument that came up because of CDF, and it had to be changed because of the legal issues that came up.
Precisely.
Yes, because even CDF itself, members of the National Assembly were supposed to primarily focus on legislation and oversight. But they insisted that they too had to get into development at the on the ground, and this is the same thing that MCAs are arguing. It's the same argument.
Let me tell you before Mheshimiwa takes over, members of parliament have no role in the management of CDF. Look at the act, is very clear on the composition.
Not even as a patron?
No, we are not either patron, we are nothing. We are just mere citizens of that constituency. The only role we are given is the role of oversight. And also the act is very clear. There's an oversight committee where the MP is a member plus 4 other people. So our role is to oversight the work of the CDF committees in each constituency. We have no role at all. We don't sit in those committees. We only sit in the oversight committee.
And you have no influence at all even in how the committee is selected.
Legally, we have no influence.
Yes, but
politically, by being leaders, it is possible. Just like the president really has no influence what happens in parliament. But because of the party politics, he can whip his party and his other friendly MPs to pass any legislation that he wishes, to push in a certain agenda. For example, if once somebody appointed and he truly believes he can help him deliver on his agenda, he will lobby and push for that person to be appointed. The same things happens to MPs.
And that's the reality.
Yes, the reality.
So you still have some influence then as far as CDF is concerned?
What I would call external influence.
Yes, okay.
Influence that is not legal.
Okay. Senators speaking yesterday at the Devolution conference appear to be in support of this. The senators themselves have been fighting for their own kind of kitty to actually get also to get their hands dirty into the development agenda as well. It appears everyone who's been given the role of legislation is not satisfied with that.
Fred, I have to be honest to the Kenyan people, and I want to differ with my colleague and say that we have a great role when it comes to CDF as members of parliament. And politically speaking, Fred, I'm being very honest. When it comes to CDF, MP is CDF and CDF is MP.
Yes.
Because the ultimate responsibility, if the CDF money is squandered, you carry the whole burden politically as the member of parliament.
Yes.
And therefore, our role to oversight CDF cannot be gainsaid. It is a very great role because it cuts across, right from the recognition of the projects to be undertaken, to auditing in terms of oversighting the money, how it's being spent. It is basically our role. But I have to say as a country that we have so many people oversighting the public resources that we have basically no one left to implement. Because there is no way you can have 349 members of the National Assembly, then have over 60 senators, then have over 3,000 plus MCAs to oversight Wajiko or to represent Wajiko. I think Kenya is over-registrated, Fred, to be very honest. Especially on the side of registration. Because when you give an MP fetching the kind of money we fetch in terms of salaries, when we give MCAs with the kind of money they fetch in terms of salaries, the sole role of oversighting money, I don't think you are optimizing their capacity.
So you're saying we are underworking you?
When you only focus on oversight and registration. Because again, we have all the roles we need as a country, and I'm being very honest, Fred. And therefore, I think it was a very wrong thing to do, to only reserve those two roles to the members of parliament and the members of the county assemblies, because basically we copy-pasted what happens maybe in other countries to Kenya without having to consider the dynamics that happens in our country. The dynamics in our country, the real ones, are that as a member of parliament for Kiharu, if I go for a function and the road is bad, people wananiuliza mheshimiwa hii barabara iko namna hii kwa nini? Then if I don't have resources to make some changes on that road, what can I tell the people? Or what is my relevance in terms of being a member of parliament for that particular constituency? But again, when you go to the word, the FAD, that is being pushed, and the bill that is being pushed by my former member of parliament and the current senator for Muranga Idogo Kangata, I only think we need to craft the role in such a way that, because most of the people are claiming the MCAs do not have capacity. On the other side, other people claim that their role will be compromised, the oversight role will be compromised if they are given resources. What we need to do is to work within the structure that we have in this manner. The MCA, because the current MCA, when they go for a burial or a function, they face the same problems that I face as a member of parliament. If kama kuna shida na shule darasa, the MCA will be told, because they are the people's representative, even when it comes to development. If there is a road that is impassable, the first person to be notified is the MCA. So what I'm saying, Fred, is this. Even if you don't give the MCA resources, because basically maybe they don't have capacity to spend this money and to actually spend it on projects, what you can do is that you give them the role of at least identifying the projects.
Yes.
Give them amount of money, maybe 10 million or 15. Tell them, give us a projects amounting to this kind of money from your ward to be implemented by the structures of the county government.
You fully support this push for MCS to get this money?
I support.
Do you support this move?
I don't, because in the issue of identifying the projects, we know each county is supposed to prepare a county integrated development plan every 5 years. And in the preparation of the county integrated development plan, the MCAs are involved in identifying the projects and prioritizing those projects.
Yes.
Secondly, whenever there is an annual budget, the MCAs again participate in the budget implementation process. The head teams that normally go around the county, identifying the projects and ensuring they are included in the budget. The MCAs again sit in the county assembly to pass the budget, supplementary budget, and all those things. At any given time, being a smaller scale, they are in a position to literally determine that this is what we require in my area. We're using your
paper. It's on paper, Fred.
This is what we require in my area. Please make sure it is included. It becomes a political negotiation. Then, when it comes to the procurement, I think, truth be told, each ward, at least I can speak for Busia County, each ward is normally given a certain amount of money.
By the county government?
By the county government. That one I can speak. For the last 5 years and up to now, that's what has been happening. The only problem has been that the procurement of these projects is normally done at the county headquarters.
The MCA wants to get involved in the procurement.
Precisely.
And that's the problem.
I've not read the nitty-gritty of the act. I'm not ready to say exactly what it calls for. But essentially, each ward, if I was a governor, and at least I want to mirror what the governor of Busia has been doing, each ward is allocated a certain amount of money. The projects are clearly identified by the MCA, but then the procurement is done at the county.
And that's the only problem.
That's all
procurement. Yes,
allow me to comment. I'll approach it in two aspects. One, as a lawyer. In this country, we have three arms of government, clearly demarcated. We have the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. If you go down, that's at the national level. If you go to the county level, you have two arms of government, and they're replicated as follows. You have the executive, and you have the legislature. You only have one section of the judiciary at the national level. Yes. Now, if you go back to the national level, you have the national government itself being the executive, the president and his cabinet. That's the executive. Those are the people that are mandated to implement projects and carry out the work. Then you have the legislature. The legislature is parliament. Parliament comprises of the National Assembly and the Senate. Their work is clear-cut. One, their work is to legislate. They're the ones responsible for making laws in this country. There is no other arm of government that can make laws that have a force, can make any laws that have a force of law. Two, their work is oversight. That is the reason why you have the National Assembly oversighting the national government, and then you have the Senate oversighting the county government and the affairs of the counties. You go to the county level, you have the executive. The executive comprises of the governor, his CECs, the county executive, his county executive committee, and other officials that he has. That's the executive. The work is to implement the policies and to carry out development in that county. And then you have what we call members of a county assembly. The reason why they are called members of the county assemblies is because their role is in the county assembly, where they are appointed to represent the various what do you call them? The various wards in the county assembly, and they have two roles. One is to legislate and to make the laws, the bylaws at the county level, and two, to oversight the county government. Now, the issue that arises here, and what has also we witnessed, is that they want to have a greater role in what they're doing, and that they want now to become part of the executive. That is how I would view it. And that clearly that would be a breach of the law. And that's the reason why you saw immediately the county governments came in, they went to court and challenged, through some NGOs, they challenged the CDF Act initially. And it was, why was it declared unconstitutional? Because there was no clear demarcation of powers, what we call the separation of powers. Because there is no way you can have a member of the legislature
infringing on the executive.
On the executive. And then at the same time, there is no way you can oversight what you are doing. You cannot tell me that I'm going to be granted, let's say, 50 million for my ward. I'm going to identify the projects. I'm going to select the committee that is going to be in charge of that fund. And then at the same time, I'm also going to be in charge of the procurement in that area. And I'm supposed to oversight myself. Okay. That is impossible. It cannot happen.
Wow. Yes, the 2018 County Ward Development Equalization Bill is already before the Senate. And of course, it will be a very interesting debate. I can already see at least one person is for it, two others are not for it. So yes, definitely interesting discussion. Now let's move on to the politics away from the Devolution Conference for a bit. There are two headlines. Has Ruto taken a knock from Raila? Before we come to Raila party pushes for Prime Minister's position. Yes, the Deputy President has been busy. We've seen him traversing the country. Some say he's already started his 2022 campaigns. We saw him this week meet with the Wiper Party chairperson, and that raised quite some eyebrows. That's the Professor Kivutha Kibwana, governor for Makueni County. But now there's this headline, and it's on the front page of the Daily Nation, meaning it's that prominent. Has Ruto taken a knock from Raila? When Deputy President William Ruto stood up to receive Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok during the homecoming ceremony for trade PS Chris Kipto was in Gishu early this month, it was not a small matter, and I'm reading directly, as the Nation team has put it. It was not just a small matter of showing respect, but a clear indication of a relationship blossoming between the two men.
For one, Governor Nanok and the Honorable Ruto were in the same party, ODM.
Yes.
Yeah, in 2007 and thereafter. So naturally, they are friends. When friends meet, they can meet over many issues. When people meet, they could discuss everything. Mheshimiwa Ruto has met Waiguru. Mheshimiwa Ruto met Honorable Raila when they went to console the Matiba family. People will meet, and obviously it's left for everybody's interpretation. The handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga was to literally cool down the temperatures and tell people we can talk over many issues, development, politics, everything else, at any given time, at any time, without reading too much into it. 2022, in my opinion, is still a bit far, and there are going to be very many coalitions, very many permutations. There are going to be very many friendship alliances that are going to be formed, broken, reformed, broken. I wouldn't want to read so much.
Okay.
So many things are going to change. Mheshimiwa Nanok, this is last term. He's not contesting for governor 2022. Obviously, like any typical politician, he needs to position himself for the future.
So that meeting, either way, this, what you can describe as a dalliance, definitely has consequences, positive or negative, depending on whoever is looking at it. But yes, the Daily Nation continues a story on page 6. And it is a fact, yes, DP needs everyone for his State House bid. It's also a fact Nanok is looking beyond the governor's seat. It is easy to say that, yes, we can just dismiss these meetings that the deputy president has, or the kind of affection or dalliance, if I may use that word again, that it could just be kawaida, the deputy president working for government. But that's just looking at it in a very simplistic manner. This is a political animal. While positioning himself for a very serious bid for the presidency come 2022. Whatever move he makes right now is of significance.
The great General Sun Tzu used to say that there is no static point in politics. You are either descending or ascending. And therefore, every politician, including Mheshimiwa seated here, is already calculating what to do in 2022. It may be secretly, it may be crafting real political moves, but there is no static point. Having said that, I also have to say that it should never be news that a deputy president of a nation is meeting other leaders. It doesn't matter which party they come from. Because when you talk about a deputy president, he's not a deputy president anymore. He's not a deputy party leader of Jubilee anymore. He's the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya.
He's also the presidential candidate for 2022.
I have never, ever, in my many engagements with him, even in meetings, seen him campaigning for 2022. In fact, I have never heard from his mouth any issue to do with 2022. In fact, I don't know whether he's vying or not. But I have to say that we have one hardworking deputy president, because I have accompanied him in many forums. And in those many forums, he's actually going for developmental matters. All of them that we have gone with him is a matter of either launching a project or going for a harabe, which I don't think has any leaning to do with the 2022. Because harabes you support for the current need. The current need now may not be the need for 2022. When you go to launch a road and you are the people funding the road, the national government, you have all the rights. Number one, because politics, the big proportion of politics is on how you relate with people. And the big part and portion of development is also how you listen to those people, so that you give them what matters most to them. Yes. And what Deputy President has been doing in terms of traversing the country, I am sure will even shape the government agenda in terms of what to deliver where, because it is a way of engaging with the people that you are implementing projects for. And
probably we're over-focusing on the deputy president. Let's take a look at these other gentlemen who are probably meeting or having this kind of relationship with the deputy president now that they didn't have a few months back. You're talking about Professor Kivutha Kibwana, a governor on his second term. Josphat Nanok, also a governor in his second term. These are people who know that they cannot vie for the same seats come 2022. Definitely, they are angling for something bigger. What could that be?
Allow me first to comment on the deputy president. It's an open secret that the deputy president will be the Jubilee presidential candidate in 2022. Well,
the member of Jubilee party, the only one on this panel, says he is not aware of that.
That's what I'm saying. It's an open secret. Whether Jubilee party has agreed to that. During the presidential campaigns, I had the deputy president saying, tutamenyana na yule jamaa, so come 2022. So he's declared his interest. But the thing is, it's too early for us to start with campaigns. But it is natural also for us to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is in everything, every move that a politician makes, it's always good to look at it and ask yourself, what is he after? There was a rumor sometime back in last year during the COG the elections for the chairman of the COG, it was rumored that DP is the one who supported Nanok. There was a rumor that was going round, and my reading of Nation newspaper confirms the same. That there is an MP, and I think from is it Loima MP, who said Jeremiah, who said that indeed the president supported Nanok to be the chairperson of the Council of Governors against Jubilee's Mvurya. So I think this deadline has started right now. It is something that has been building up. And reading the story, you hear him saying, and it's not him, you hear the MP saying that his development record can catapult him to be the vice deputy president in 2022, which I highly doubt is going to be the thing. But essentially, anybody you hear trying to angle themselves and saying that they are going to vie for presidency come 2022, it's a bargaining chip. They are looking for something, and definitely they are angling to be the government come 2022. Okay. Essentially, if you are governor serving your second term, your political career has come to an end unless you are aiming for the presidency or the deputy presidency. In the alternative,
what about a position in cabinet?
Or definitely a position in cabinet. That's what I'm saying. For the political, for an elective position, then unless you are aiming for the presidency or the deputy presidency, there is no... In the hierarchy of the positions, there is no other position that is there. So essentially, it could be they angling themselves for cabinet come 2022. They could also be angling themselves for board chairmanships, those ones which have become like the retirement packages for all the politicians. So we never know. But every move a politician makes, especially one who is a presidential, not necessarily a presidential candidate, but who one is perceived to be a presidential candidate, it has to be scrutinized. Yes. That's the reason why, even if we don't know whether Raila will be vying in 2022, every handshake is being scrutinized. It's being asked, why is he greeting so and so?
Was it tight enough?
Yes. why all this? So definitely it is natural for us to read politics.
And of course, it's a reason why the Daily Nation has decided to put this story on the front page, and they quote they cite an incident where the deputy president actually stood up to welcome the governor from Turkana, Josphat Nanok. And the story continues. Gentlemen, our time is up, but even as we wrap up, there's one more political issue that you could comment on as you make your final comment. Raila party pushes for prime minister's position. Of course, this was going to be the biggest discussion up until IBC came back and decided to change everything and take up all the headlines. IBC has been forgotten. Can't find it anywhere on the dailies today, but at least the Devolution conference will give us headlines up until Friday. But it appears we'll come back to this discussion again.
Definitely.
Whether or not to create the position of a prime minister. Now, it appears like Ruto versus Raila. It appears that way because, yes, the deputy president is the only leader of that stature that has come out to say he's not welcome to that issue of having a referendum that could make this possible. Is that how you see it?
Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and Ruto and Mheshimiwa Ruto are not in any form of any competition at all. Not at all. The fact of the matter remains that even when we were campaigning for the 2010 constitution, everybody agreed there was a 20% that was not acceptable, that was wrong, that was not right. And we said at the most opportune time, we will make amendments to the constitution to address the 20%. If you sit down with those people who are involved in the constitution-making process up to 2010 referendum, they will tell you there was so much compromise that essentially resulted in a document that was good for that time. But over time, issues have arisen that require to be addressed. And one of the issues, Mheshimiwa Nyoro has mentioned it, issue of representation. There is this feeling that Kenya is overrepresented. So obviously, there are going to be changes. But fundamentally, and this is a historical fact, the issue of winner takes it all, loser loses it all, in our current situation, requires to be examined. Number two, the issue that being a multi-ethnic country, you find that the leadership, the national leadership, has concentrated on 2 communities because of what Mutahi Ngunyu calls tyrant of numbers. It's an issue that is causing discomfort to quite a number of communities in the country. So we must find a system, whether it's presidential, it's parliamentary, or a mongrel, or a mixture of the 2, that will assure some bit of distribution of the national position to as many communities as possible. Because as we stand now, unless we reach a certain level of development, we still believe being in power determines your status at any given time.
Okay.
And you remember at one time, the former President Moi said that we'll only take development to those areas that have voted for us. And you would remember how the development affairs, how the cake was shared out. And probably the issue of devolution came in to minimize the focus on the presidency. Unfortunately, since it's the national government that collects money and shares with the counties, that problem will still remain. So we must find a way of distributing or dispersing positions to assuage all members of this country.
Okay.
I have to start by saying that there is no contest. It's not Ruto versus Raila, in my opinion. It is Raila versus the current situation and feeling of the Kenyan people. Because the current feeling of the Kenyan people is that we have campaigned far enough. We have campaigned for so long, insofar as the last elections are concerned. And the last thing that we would want as leaders and as a Kenyan people is to put the country back into a campaign mood. Remember, Fred, that when we talk about amending the Constitution, especially by including the position of the Prime Minister or changing the structure of governance, it is not a matter of us as MPs going to Bunge and changing. It is a matter that will involve the Kenyan voters in a referendum. And if we put our country back again into the kind of electioneering mood that we are in, we will only take a toll on what we should be doing to help the situations in the Kenyan people's livelihoods, which is development. So for a start, I have to say that I am on the view that we should not put our country back into any kind of electioneering mode, referendum being one of them. But even as I agree with my colleague, Daktari, yes, we all were told and we know that there was a 20% in the Constitution that needed to be relooked at or changed properly to include the 100% of Kenyans. And that is the reason actually we went for the referendum, because the referendum is about the majority. They will have their way, and the minority their say. But in the 20%, I don't think there was any issue to do with positions, who gets what. It will be so costly for us as a country to go for a referendum just to include 3 people in the structure of governance, because you are talking about the Prime Minister and his 2 deputies. And Fred, the bottom line is that we are not even creating the position, so to say. It is some individuals that we can even have their names here, whom we are creating jobs for. It will be very expensive for our country to go that route, and I don't think it is right for us to do that. But having said that, we cannot be amending the Constitution, especially through such a costly method of a referendum, for political expediency. We cannot be doing and having those kind of costly affairs just to bring some few individuals. I think our Constitution is very clear, and the good thing about our Constitution is that it does not lock anyone out. Anyone, even a Pokot, can run for presidency. Anyone, as far as you are a Kenyan. It doesn't matter whether you are a Kikuyu or a Kalenjin, as my colleague is trying to insinuate. Any Kenyan has a right to vie for presidency, and anyone has a chance. And therefore, if we amend the Constitution so that we have 3 more positions, Fred, what will happen now to the other 40-something or 30-something other tribes that will not be included in those big positions? Will we be going back to the Kenyan people to amend the Constitution until we bring on board every tribe, until we bring on board every notable individual? I don't think that is the right way to go as a country.
Finally, Bwana Murigi Kamande.
My take on this issue is, one, We've had 8 years to evaluate the Constitution. We will all agree that there are issues we have with the Constitution. But now the problem that arises is that right now our focus is on creating positions for certain individuals in the name of amending the Constitution. And that is a wrong approach. Because what you'll find yourself is a situation that 3-4 years down the line, or whenever now we feel one of the positions is so powerful than the other one, and because our attention, our aim is to ensure that so-and-so does not have these powers in future, then we have to amend the Constitution. My only problem is one. I agree. We can amend the Constitution on so many issues that I believe that need to be changed. But the moment we lose focus and our attention now moves to creation of positions for certain individuals, or trying to, or having realized that so-and-so is going to be president in 2022 and we don't want him to ascend to presidency with all these powers, therefore we have to create other positions, that will be a wrong approach. And that's the reason why the other day the Deputy President said that it is time for development. Let us not focus on creating positions for individuals. Let people work for these 5 years that are there.
Yet another debate that, yes, my panelists are split on, at least 2 against 1. That means the discussion will definitely continue. And after the devolution conference, definitely, I'm sure the headline will come back to this, whether or not we should have a referendum to create the position of Prime Minister and other positions as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Ojiambo Oundo, MP Funyula constituency, Bwanandini Nyoro, MP Kiharu, and Murigi Kamande, lawyer, also social political commentator, helping us look at the headlines this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Power Breakfast still continues. That's a hashtag to use up until 9 a.m. We'll be getting more updates regarding quite a number of things happening across the country as well, so do stand by for that. For now, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have more.